I got a message from a previous guest of Monster Kid Radio. This came from Chris Alexander. He appeared on episode 639 of Monster Kid Radio. This happened back in October of 2023. He said to me in this message, Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you too, sir. I just listened to the latest episode and got the idea to gift this song to the show. It's an instrumental I recorded, and it really should have a home. It's on YouTube, but with very little views and likes, and, well, I thought maybe it would be useful to you. Sure isn't doing me any good sitting in my archives. Hope you're well. Pet your cat for me and have a great year. So, Chris, thank you. I am having a hard time believing that we're already 1 month into the new year, and believe me, I have pet Wednesday quite a bit. She had a little bit of a health scare. I'll talk about that at the very end of the show. But yeah, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get his song going? And the rest of this episode, this is Curse of Imhotep. Big thanks to Chris for letting us play his music here on the show. Curse of Imhotep, you're going to hear it in its entirety at the end of this episode of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. This is Bride of Monster Kid Radio. My name is Derek M. Cook. I want to welcome you to the show, and man, I'm in a mummy mood. So Chris's message and this song coming in for us to play here on the show, it was just one big coincidence. There must have been mummy dust in the air, which probably isn't very healthy, but I was really in a mummy mood. I love mummy movies. I've talked about how much I love mummy movies in the past. I just love them. There's just something about it. There's something about the Egyptology mysticism that goes into some of these movies. And I know maybe that's not even politically correct to say, because it is, based on an Egyptian religion from many, many, many moons ago. But there's just something about it. The trappings, the aesthetic, I just adore it. And I was honored to appear on an episode of the Graveyard Club podcast where they talked about the original Mummy from 1932. And you can find the Graveyard Club podcast on YouTube and wherever it is you download your podcast. And, keeping that mummy mood going, Robert Kelly brought up a movie in a Facebook chat. The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals. Is it anything like the original Karloff mummy film? Well, no. Is it fun? Heck yeah. I had a grand time. And that's what you're going to hear this week on the show. Now, I know that we had promised that we would do kind of a let's look ahead at what's coming up in the future. And we are going to get to that. So we're going to do that too. And to that end, Kenny has an awesome look at Famous Monsters of Filmland that involves Famous Monsters of Filmland looking ahead to their future, in the 70s. So that'll be coming up here as well. And of course, it would not be an episode of Bride of Monster Kid Radio without Mark Matzke's Beta Capsule review. He is reviewing every single episode of every single Ultraman, and we are still working on Ultraman Taro right now. The mummy dust, it only goes so far. It's not a mummy-themed episode, but there was a mummy in Ultraman once before, but it was in the original Ultraman, the Cry of the Mummy episode. There was the mummy, what do they call him? The Mummy Man. Looks kind of cool. Cool kaiju. And of course, Mark has already talked about it because he's been talking about every single episode of Ultraman here on the show. So actually, we're going to change up the order of how we do things here on the show a little bit. We're going to do Mark Matzke's Beta Capsule review. You're going to hear from me and Robert. We're going to do Kenny's segment. Then we're going to look to the future. And we're going to do that now.
There's never been a pattern to these Pacific vanishings. They seem to happen at random. Communication stopped. The crew's too busy to handle it to report.
Handle what?
Something that can catch up with the plane and snatch the people out of it.
The Navy versus the Night Monsters. Starring Mamie Van Doren, who triggered earthly emotions in the midst of unearthly events. Anthony Isley, fighting fiendish, crawling things. From Antarctica, frozen for 1,000,000 years, to a small naval outpost in the Pacific comes a cargo of deviltry, devastation, death. Attacking bodies, destroying minds. Chilling terror in a desperate, endless fight against a nameless horror.
Those things are multiplying. There's no telling how fast. I wouldn't be surprised if it got up to be hundreds, maybe even thousands. The whole island would be covered with them.
Nightmare terror from the tomb. An ancient curse comes to life to strangle the living and raise the dead. Here is the horror and the terror of a story that began in ancient Egypt.
Take Carradine! Take him!
When Carradine, a son of Pharaoh, died in the desert and was covered in the shroud that bore the sacred power of life and death.
What was he saying?
He says that death awaits all who disturb the resting place of Carradine.
Warning to every creature of flesh and blood, beware the beat of the cloth-wrapped feet. Beware the curse of the mummy's shroud. This is the leader of the British expedition who came in search of the tomb. The rich and ruthless financier who believes money can bribe even the devil himself. This is the son who knows there is no escape.
Someone or something is trying to destroy us. I believe it'll find us wherever we go.
The wife and mother trapped by the mummy's shroud.
I see death.
This is Haiti, the crystal gazer, who sees into the past and the terrifying future. This is the girl who's doomed, cursed by the mummy's shroud.
You mean I'm going to die?
In a few minutes from now.
Kill her! Kill her!
Dead 1,000 years, now he lives and breathes to avenge an ancient curse, to strangle the living, raise the dead, and prey upon human flesh.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review. Ultraman Taro, Episode 20. Surprise, a monster fell from the sky. Original air date, August 17th, 1973. Kotaro and the Shiratori siblings visit a guest house in the beautiful Shinshu region. Their reverie is broken by an unsettling encounter with a woman who stares at them with an absent expression. Her name is Osugi, and she's the guest house owner's wife, still in shock over the death of her son, which happened 2 months prior. That night, the trio enjoys a local fireworks festival until it's interrupted by the crash landing of young space monster Raydron. Its mother generates a thunderstorm looking for the child, and Osugi cautions Kotaro against a forceful response. Nevertheless, ZAT is called in to investigate. They find the seriously wounded creature, which reacts in fear, leading the defense force to debate their approach. Should they allow the monster to rampage or neutralize the threat? Episode 20 of Ultraman Taro continues the series' exploration of the bond between mother and child by comparing 3 such relationships: the one between Raydron, mama, and child, the great loss experienced by Osugi, and the bond between Taro and Mother of Ultra. The result is emotionally rich and genuinely suspenseful, with a grieving mother Osugi acting as an oracle of sorts to Kotaro, urging a peaceful and compassionate resolution to the Raydron crisis. In the midst of this colorful, thoughtful story, one major change has taken place. The role of Sori Shiratori, sister of Kenichi, is being played by a new actress, Keiko Ono. Ono's other genre role was in Kamen Rider, and interestingly enough, there's a brief shot of an arrangement of Kamen Rider masks during the fireworks festival sequence. For Bride of Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
How much shock can you take? It will haunt you forever. From the depth of evil comes a diabolic killer of beautiful women. The vampire's coffin. See a vampire's body stolen from its tomb. A psycho killer removes the stakes so the vampire can again prey on beautiful women. It's in the vampire's coffin. And to complete a double night of horror, a monstrous nightmare of terror turned loose in a fight to the death. The robot versus the Aztec mummy. They will bring you a night of terror. We dare you to see them, but don't come alone. The Vampire's Coffin. In an all-new double horrorama show with The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. Presented in Hypnoscope. To heighten the horror, shock your senses, chill your brain. It could only be shown at midnight.
They have never lived before as they live now. One man has already died, the other was never born. Both exist in a world between life and death. Both long to be human. Neither can ever be. Dracula versus Frankenstein. 10 dead men's bodies were used to fashion Dr. Frankenstein's infamous creature. Tens of dozens of victims have kept Count Dracula alive for 3 centuries. Only one of these beings will survive their meeting. Dracula versus Frankenstein. Brand new thrills, brand new horror, brand new shock. Dracula versus Frankenstein, in color, rated GP.
This is Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. You know how the children of the night, monster kids can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned, and don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
All right, listeners, you heard me on somebody else's podcast talking about the original 1932 The Mummy, and I had a grand time talking with the cats over at the Graveyard Club podcast, and it put me into a mummy mood. And then Robert Kelly mentions this movie in a chat that I have going with him on Facebook, The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals, and you know what? This is one that I have never seen before, so I'm thinking let's talk about it this week on Bride of Monster Kid Radio with the aforementioned Robert Kelly. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Eric. I just watched this movie again. It's maybe the third or fourth time I've seen it, so I'm flying high. I'm great.
You've only seen it 3 or 4 times, yet you did order the Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, I'll get into how I first came across it and why I decided it was an immediate purchase. But yeah, we'll get into it.
I had heard about this movie kind of without really knowing what movie it was. I knew there was a low budget, very low budget mummy movie out there in color, in which a werewolf and a mummy fight on the streets of Las Vegas. I don't think I knew it was this movie. And technically it's not a werewolf, it's a were-jackal, jackal man, whatever. I didn't know it was this movie. And so when I started watching this movie and I realized what I was in for, I was stoked. And then Anthony Isley turns up on screen and I'm like, dude, I love this guy. I am super stoked. Let me take it back. I was super stoked when the soundtrack started during the opening credits.
Yeah.
This music is phenomenal. Now, the opening credits is the best music in the film. The rest of it's still pretty good. But that opening credit bop is amazing, and I had a grand time watching this.
It comes back a few times.
Oh, a few.
Yeah. Oh, man. When I first saw it, it was my wife and I were going through Tubi, and we were going through the horror section, and I told her, I bet if I just click with my eyes closed 5 times, we'll find something with John Carradine in
it. Did it take all 5 times, or?
Well, I had my eyes closed, so it was like roulette and like stopped, and it was one off from a John Carradine movie.
Nice.
But it was this. He wasn't listed in the cast from the little blurb. I was like, okay, well, whatever. This looks weird anyway. Let's watch this. And so we're watching it, and then in the last 20 minutes, John Carradine pops up. I'm vindicated. So we watched this, like, not really knowing what to expect, and just, like he said, from the second the opening credits roll, and it's playing this theme like a pretty talented musician half remembering the Munsters theme on organ.
So much of it felt like the Munsters. It really did.
He's like half remembering it, and then just improvising the parts he doesn't remember. It's wild stuff. And then the movie just starts right away. It's just these 3 people looking at some mummies.
Who was she, David?
She's the Princess Akana, daughter of Akthios, pharaoh of the 9th dynasty.
Is? You talk about her as if she's still alive.
Maybe she is, Donna.
Dave, you can't be serious.
No, of course not.
Let me have that glass, David. This case interests me. This is amazing, David. So far as anyone knows, the Egyptians hadn't discovered glass that far back. Dave, this is fantastic. This glass has a clarity and a durability that we've only been able to duplicate in the past 5 years. How could they have known how to manufacture it then?
It adds right in. There's no lead up. There's no setting the scene, introducing the characters. It's just like, hey, here's a mummy in a glass case. How'd they get glass? I don't know. There's another mummy too. I wonder what happens. Just boom, 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 right into it. It's awesome.
This movie never stops even.
No.
It's just, it's only 80 minutes long and it just goes. You know, I took a tour out in West Texas back in October, and there were stretches of highway where I just had the pedal down and didn't even look at the speedometer. That was this movie. Like, it was just 80 minutes of open highway driving in rural West Texas. Like, it was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning.
So I watched it this afternoon, actually. Probably finished it about an hour before we started reaching out to each other about recording today, to finalize things. And I don't know how to describe the vibe. I want it on CD, man. I
really want the soundtrack for this. I was checking if it's streaming anywhere earlier today. Let's get this out of the way. When we talk about the classic and sometimes not so classic monster cinema of yesteryear, this is firmly on the not so classic side of things.
Right. I mean, there is a huge difference between the Karloff mummy film that, I talked about on that other podcast and this one. There's a world of difference, right? Yeah. There is a huge difference between Swan Lake from the original Mummy and whatever Peter Thomas was doing for the score in this one. There's a huge difference between the mummies, the makeup, the performances, the script, a world of difference. But darn it if I didn't have fun.
I will watch The Mummy from 1932 and then put this on right after. Like,
wow.
Like,
wow.
I adore this, and it scratches some part of my brain that I can't explain. And it's like, so I've talked about it before on this show and just with you in general, that I get drawn a lot to the kind of darker cult movie side of things.
Sure.
And this scratches a lot of that same kind of itch I get by watching, like, Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. This weird regional filmmaking that's just, like, going for it. Like, we have an idea and we cannot rest until the idea has come to fruition.
It definitely has that regional, very DIY. It makes me think of that scene in the Tim Burton Ed Wood film. Ed Wood and company are out there shooting on, in the city, and the police show up, and Johnny Depp as Ed Wood looks at everybody and says, "We don't have a permit, run." It feels very much like that, especially when the mummy is just walking down the street of Las Vegas, and the bystanders, they're not bystanders. They're just people in the back, whoever happened to be on the Las Vegas Strip that day, watching and smiling and following along, and nobody's terrified of this monster walking down the street.
They are bemused at worst. At worst, they are bemused, if not fully enthusiastic about, look at this mummy.
Yeah.
There is a couple when the Jackal Man chases the mummy. There's a couple that gets kind of shoved out of the way by both monsters, and they're like, "Hey, only in Las Vegas, man!" Like,
1960s Las Vegas in particular. It's got, it does feel like somebody had to pay a mob person something to get permission to shoot there, but then they didn't clear any of the civilians. I don't know. It just
that's a theory about this movie. So I know a little bit about the making of it because I have the Blu-ray and watch the special features. It's made by a company called Vega International.
Okay.
Which was a regional Las Vegas film company. They had made a movie, a Western, because the guy who directed this was kind of their house director.
Oliver Drake.
At first, Oliver Drake. And he made B-Westerns. That's primarily what he made. In addition to, like, one-shot episodes of TV shows, that sort of, he was a working director.
Okay.
But he was also an executive at Vega International when it was founded. The guy who wrote this, William C. Edwards, he founded the company and he knew Oliver Drake and brought him in to be an executive and to direct things. So he directed this after there were 2 other movies they made at Vega International before this. So they're called They Ran for Their Lives and Ride a Wild Stud.
All right.
Those were two Westerns that Oliver Drake directed before making this. And apparently Ride a Wild Stud had financial problems. They were sued over its release because they did not pay the actors.
Really?
Yeah.
This studio didn't pay?
They did not pay the actors, and they were forced to pay through litigation. And then they made their second movie, and then they made this, which was never released theatrically. It wasn't released until the 80s on VHS.
That's something else that blew my mind. No, I knew that. I did a little bit of research, not as much as you did, it sounds like. And I stumbled across that, and like, how does that, what? Okay, I mean, there was that Ed Wood movie, Night of the Ghouls, that sat at the lab forever. And I know why that was. Ed Wood didn't pay. Do we know why this one didn't get released at all?
Nothing hard and fast, but it may have been financed by the mob to hide money, so they had no need to release it. So it just kind of sat around for a while until someone ripped it to VHS, and then eventually Severin Films got a hold of it and put out a beautiful Blu-ray.
I love that we live in a time in which movies like this, like Manos, The Hands of Fate, and so many of these other movies get a prestige Blu-ray release. How amazing is that?
Mm-hmm. Was Manos Severin as well, or was that Synapse?
Well, Manos started as a Kickstarter project, and then I think it might have been Synapse who ended up doing the distribution, but Manos started as a Kickstarter project. Either way, these movies are on Blu-ray now, and there's no way anybody who would have seen these movies or even worked on these movies would imagine that would have happened. I feel like.
No. These were paychecks. This was a paycheck for everyone involved.
Oh yeah.
John Carradine, like we said, is in the movie for like 5 of the last 20 minutes, and he's doing his best. He's reading these terrible lines with the gravitas you expect from John Carradine.
Some pretty ridiculous lines, but I love it.
Yes. I love how he just tells the police officer who's investigating, oh, he's not involved.
David, my boy. Professor Cummings, how wonderful to see you, sir. I heard you were coming to the convention, but what brings you out here?
Can't a teacher visit his favorite student without a special reason?
Anytime, sir, anytime.
Matter of fact, David, I did want to see you about another thing. Lieutenant Barnes here... Oh, I'm sorry, have you met? Lieutenant Barnes here said he had some trouble with a mummy last night. He asked me to sort of look into it for him.
A mummy, sir?
Yes, can you imagine? Also, some sort of a wolf man.
Well, now, it isn't funny to us, Professor.
Oh, I don't mean to make light of your problem, Lieutenant. I think you'll find there's no real mummy involved.
Yes, of course.
So you see, Lieutenant, as I told you, what David's doing has no bearing on what has happened.
Well, the flat matter of fact, I know there's some mummy business going on. You know more than you're letting on. I've seen a picture. Like, dude.
I know there's some mummy business going on. Yeah. And then, of course, our lead is Anthony Isley, who we talked about before on my podcast back on Record All Monsters in season 2, because he's the leading man from The Mighty Gorga.
I know. Yes. Which I love. I have such fun. I mean, no, it's firmly in the not so classic category as well. But that also was released in '69. I assume it was produced around the same time. The Mighty Gorga, another phenomenal piece of work. But Anthony Isley's in that. He's in The Navy versus the Night Monster, The Wasp Woman, and one of my absolute favorites, Dracula versus Frankenstein.
Yeah, so the Al Adamson Dracula versus Frankenstein
Oh, he's a comforting presence in these movies.
Yeah, he's a hero.
Yeah,
a hero. Very little of the acting in this movie is bad. There's a lot of flat acting. There's a lot of, very serviceable acting, but there's nothing, or not that much, that's terrible. Whoever's doing the ADR for The Mummy, and but yeah, this guy, I mean, he was in The Witchmaker, which is actually a really solid folk horror from the same year.
I've not seen that one. That one's been on my list to watch for a while now.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's a little rough in places, but I enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's a nice drive-in folk horror little movie.
Okay.
Could have been better, but so could a lot of things. And I'm here singing this movie's praises. So,
Kenny has said to me repeatedly, there's no such thing as a bad movie. There's just a boring movie. That's the worst thing the movie can be.
That's the worst thing a movie can be.
And this movie is not boring at all. There are a few moments that it does slow down a touch. And it's only noticeable because it starts at 60. And then they let off the gas a little bit. And then they go right back up to it. But for the most part, it never feels boring at all to me.
No.
This is just a trip, and Anthony Isley's part of it. He's got a charm, a charisma. I'm drawn to the guy whenever he turns up in something. Like I said, the Mighty Gorga. I mean, I can't remember. You have better memory than me. I knew we had talked about it, and remember it's not long ago. I'm pretty sure I sang the movie's praises a little bit back then.
We talked about how much fun we had with it.
Okay, good. Okay, I wanted to make sure.
we were like, it's not good, but I've spent worse 70-minute sections of my life.
I've spent several hours with the Mighty Gorga on purpose, and I will I'll spend many hours with this movie in the future on purpose because it is a ton of fun. And like I said, Isley is a big part of that. Was he not originally cast as the lead? That's another thing that I stumbled across.
Yeah, no, he was not originally cast as the lead. Actually, his male co-star from The Mighty Gorga originally supposed to play the lead. Scott Brady, was originally cast to be the lead here, and this guy, he's been in real movies too. Scott Brady, he was the sheriff in Gremlins. He was in
He's been in real
China
movies.
Syndrome. He was in Johnny Guitar.
Okay.
He's been in real movies that people have good things to say about. But he's also the second lead from The Mighty Gorga, and he was supposed to be the lead in this. But he got a real acting job somewhere else, and he recommended Anthony Isley to the production staff. And Anthony Isley was already going to be the secondary lead here, whose name is Bob. And they just bumped him up and then grabbed another guy to play Bob. Just everyone getting promoted all around.
I guess so. And the thing is I would buy Anthony Isley as an archaeologist in this era of filmmaking, I suppose. He keeps talking about going to the archaeologist convention, and of course we're in Vegas, so that's where the convention's at. And he's going to introduce them to Akana,
Princess Akana,
not Ananka, but Akana. And I guess Sirac is there too, which is just Karis backwards.
Yeah. Playing anagrams with the mummy names.
Hey, you know what? It's not the first time we've seen that. Alucard, Dracula. I mean,
oh yeah,
that's a tradition. That's a thing. But yeah,
yep.
I guess when Universal does it with Lon Chaney Jr., it feels classy and intentional. When Drake and company do it with this Sirac to Karis, it doesn't feel.
This feels a little bit like they're hoping you won't notice.
Yeah.
Whereas it's part of something you're supposed to unravel in Son of Dracula.
Right.
So this feels like, hey, it's been a while since anyone's seen these mummy movies. Which, by the way, Oliver Drake was a producer on The Curse of the Mummy, and had also done some pickup writing on it.
Okay.
So that's something I learned from the special features. They have an interview with Stephen Thrower, the guy who wrote Nightmare USA, which is like this huge comprehensive book.
It's a great
that I can never afford and just check out from the library over and over. He said in that interview that Oliver Drake, and he showed the part in the credits. I'll have to go back on my copy of the movie and see that, he wrote additional dialogue and some song lyrics for it, as well as being a producer.
Wow.
So this is Oliver Drake's second Mummy movie.
Okay.
And the first one was with Universal.
Going from The Mummy's Curse to this, that's quite a journey.
Yeah.
He does have his mummy walk around like the Lon Chaney Jr. mummy from those films.
Yes, with the arm retracted and reaching out with the other hand.
And it was rumored that they tried to get him for this film too. Are you able to speak on that at all, or do you know anything about that?
I had read that in a couple of places, but nowhere really had like a source. But I mean, that is the kind of thing that was happening at the time. I know like Al Adamson got Lon Chaney Jr. for several things a couple of times around the same period.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not totally out of the question. But I didn't really see any sourcing on that. Should we say what the movie's about?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of danced into it a little bit. It really is about a mummy and a jackal man fighting, and I don't know. It's all right. So we've got our David, our archaeologist, right? And he's going to present at this upcoming archaeology convention, and he's super excited, and he's got this mummy in a glass case with glass that we only started making this glass like 5 years ago. They talk about the technology being so advanced. They have no idea how the Egyptians did it, which is thrown out there like it's going to be super important later. It really isn't.
Nope.
Other than just to justify why we have the woman in glass. That's all it is. And he wants to spend the night in the same room or same building with the mummies, with the woman in the mummy Serac, because there's a full moon and there's this thing about jackals, and he wants to see what's going to happen. And his buddies Bob and Bob's romantic partner, girlfriend, I guess Donna, agree to it.
Donna, yep.
And
they lock him in.
Yeah. And then he goes to bed and he turns into a jackal person.
He turns into a jackal man. And one of the wild things about this introduction, Derek, you just described the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it just goes right into it, man.
Like by the end of the 20-minute mark, he's been a jackal man for a little bit, and it's just wild. The makeup is okay, like in terms of the budget, when you take everything into consideration, it's pretty good. It's silly.
It's a mask. It's clearly a mask. Beth looked over and it's like, oh, that's interesting. But it's not awful. And the transformation is done like the old school Wolfman films. It's a lap dissolve. Yeah. So, it's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible. It's everything in this movie is somewhere on a scale between serviceable to strange. And the monster makeup, I feel, falls very much on the serviceable side of things. Anyway, he goes on this rampage that we don't see much of, but he's hopping around. He's being a jackal man, and then he wakes up. Bob wakes him up the next morning, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going, man? Did you get a girl over here? Looks like you had a rough night." He's also clearly in love with the mummy. Princess Akana. He's clearly in love with her from the beginning, And Bob is, kind of teasing him about it. He's like, "Hey, you do like living women, right? You know?" But he's not wrong. Anytime he's left alone with Akana, he's like, "Oh, my beautiful Akana, my sweet Akana, I will be with you."
It borders on creepy. And
Yeah.
I mean, we know there's something more than just a weird archaeologist who fell in love with a dead body thing going on here, which is a strange sentence to say.
Which is a strange thing already.
Yeah, but there's there is something going on here. There is a serviceable reason for this Is it? I don't know if it is or not. At some point, ISIS is going to turn up and say the Jackal is going to be in love with you as well as the mummy, and they'll protect you. So
Yeah, and
what
we find out through the course of his conversations with Bob and the still unconscious Akana that he stole these two mummies. They fell out of a plane over Needles, and he just dragged them back to his house.
Why not?
And now he's going to present them at this archaeology conference. So
it borders on a as you know, Bob kind of sequence where we're going to give you some information without actually letting you see what happened. Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happens again, except we get a little bit of him translating the runes on the other mummy, on Sarik's sarcophagus. And it's just the story from the mummy.
Yeah.
Where they bury the princess, and he goes back to try and reincarnate or wake her up to be with her, and they catch him and they kill him. And
they rip out his tongue. Spend a lot of time with the tongue. Longer than I thought was necessary. But hey, you got the special effect. Might as well show it off.
Hey, you got that piece of rubber and dipped it in paint. You wanted them to see it. Yeah, they rip out his tongue and then they mummify him alive. And he goes to sleep after reading that story on the sarcophagus. And he wakes up and Jackal Man's out. We get a homeless man who's played by an actor named Burke Reynolds.
Which is a great name.
Burke Reynolds.
Wonderful name. I love it.
And for some reason, the Jackal Man has left the house, and then Burke Reynolds comes in the house, and then the Jackal Man comes back in the house and just kind of chases him off.
But during the tussle, there is a tussle.
There's a tussle.
And Burke does break the glass case, which allows Akana to come to life, and she and Bob, or whatever his name is, she and David, allows she and David to have this conversation. And Akana kind of pulls Carl off here, where she's going to be presented as somebody other than Akana, and what she started calling herself, Connie. Really call her Connie.
Connie.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Bob and Donna want to meet this woman, so David sets up a double date with them all, and they're concerned that Akana is going to be recognized. And don't worry about it. We have magic. We're just going to kind of wait.
Yes.
Magically, we don't know who I am. Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, and we do get a justification, an explanation as to why she can speak English, which was a nice, for a movie like this. Granted, the way they handled it was a little on the nose.
Clumsy.
But at least they did.
Well, they almost did it elegantly, because in the flashback, that David is reading, it says that when she resurrects, she'll be able to speak the language where she's found.
Yeah.
And that's still a little, it's folded in elegantly. It's not a great reason from a writing standpoint, but it's done relatively well. And then after they've been talking for a few minutes, he goes, "Oh, hey, how come you can speak English?" And then she says, "Oh, well, the curse, that they put me under, I was able to speak the language of wherever I came back to life." And he was like, "Oh, that's right. I remember from the story." And it's like, you could have just, you explained it earlier. You didn't have to, you put a hat on a hat on a hat.
For those in the back who weren't paying attention, yeah.
And then they go on this double date, and the other mummy wakes up and comes to get her.
Which is a whole thing. This is when we get the mummy walking around the streets of Las Vegas, and really, the way everything's kind of paced, including the music cues that are being played or replayed, it almost feels like the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
It feels like we're about to wrap this movie up, and I was checking, it's like, I know this movie's moving fast, but oh, wait a minute, there's still like a good 25 minutes to go. What is happening here? The mummy's wandering around Vegas. Isley turns into the Jackal Man. He's wandering around Vegas. They fight, kind of. Bob becomes the vessel for ISIS, which came out of the blue for me.
Out of nowhere, he's standing there talking to Connie, and she goes, "Hold on a second," and then they cut back and forth between her ring and a piece of jewelry, another piece of jewelry, and just boom, Bob is ISIS.
Why not?
And ISIS tells her, "Hey, so do you remember why you're here?" She's like, "Yes, but tell me again."
As you know, Bob.
Yes, you have to bring back worship of the Egyptian gods to this new desert. And she's like, "That's right. That's what we agreed on." And then she says, "The mummy Sirach and the Jackal Man are in love with you, and they'll do what you say, and they'll protect you. Also, Bob's gonna do what you say, for Bob reasons, I guess." And she's like, "Yep, just like we agreed on." And then she goes back to being Bob. And one thing I feel like we should go over again is the David is the Jackal Man. Or David, before he was the Jackal Man, was wearing this like kind of collarless suit jacket you'd see in like a kung fu movie. And he's still wearing it when he jackals out. And it looks great. It looks so good. It's also clearly the stunt double, a much bigger man.
Sure.
But just like, werewolf in this super, super Vegas 60s look, going around and just like kind of confusedly following, looking for the princess and the jackal or the mummy. And then they find him passed out in the woods as himself.
Yep. And it really felt like I said, it really felt like this all should have been the end of the movie. It's all kind of building to these moments, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the way the music is kind of crescendoing, but it's not the end because we've got to have John Carradine pop up and the police.
So I wonder, cause like the Oliver Drake, Oliver Drake, most of his movies are, they're a 1 hour B picture. Like it is supposed to follow whatever the A picture is, the 2 hour A picture. So you get a 3 hour program and it's got to be an hour or less. And it's plotted like that up to this point.
Yep.
And then they just decide, wait, we'll cut it off. Cause there's even a confrontation between the mummy and the jackal briefly. And then it just stops. And John Carradine shows up. I might be mad if John Carradine didn't show up.
Yeah.
And talks to the police and to David, and he's like, "David, now I know you stole these mummies, because they went missing, and I have pictures of them before they went missing. Have you by any chance been turned into a jackal man?
But he's like, doesn't this happen after the conversation? This is my favorite conversation with the police, when Carradine is explaining the curse of the jackal man or whatever, and it only happens on the full moon. And the police officer says, "Oh, well, the full moon's over, so now I only have to wait a month, and we'll be fine until it happens again."
We're gonna take it easy for a month.
Yeah.
Until it happens again.
Yeah, so I've got the movie running on my screen right now. The movie runs an hour 20, an hour 21, right?
Yeah.
John Carradine walks into screen at the 1 hour, 1 minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just "Hey, Professor Cumming, what are you doing here? Can't I visit without a special reason?" It's just, well, okay.
It's delightful. And then he's there for like, what, 5-10 minutes of the last 20?
Yeah. He's not very long. I think he pretty much exits after he meets Connie, but calls her Akana.
Mm-hmm.
And Connie has to correct him, like, "Oh no, it's not. Oh, well, my mistake. I've always been bad with names." And that's it, right? We don't see him again, do we?
Pretty much, yeah. And one of the funny things about it, the back of the Blu-ray describes it as the legendary John Carradine earns a day's pay. As to his involvement.
Carradine would do these movies. He would take any role, not because he was desperate. I mean, maybe he was desperate for money, but not for the reasons that we necessarily would think. Because I think he's gone on record and said in interviews, and it's been pretty much well documented, that a lot of the time he would take these jobs so that he could fund or funnel the money that he would earn on these things into like theatrical.
His Shakespeare company.
Yeah. So good for him, but it does. Sometimes his insertion into these movies is handled a little bit more delicately.
He doesn't play it totally deadpan. His tongue is a little bit there at his cheek. He knows what kind of movie he's in, and he's having fun with it, which is always great to see. Those are the two options you want when you have someone kind of slumming in a movie like this. You want them to either be totally 100% serious. This is a straight movie. I'm treating it with all the gravitas it doesn't deserve, but that I would for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Or they know what it is and they let you know they know what it is, but not too much. He's still acting. He's still working in this.
Yeah.
But
and he's got the skills. I mean,
yeah.
You might see like a Lloyd Kaufman turn up in a lot of low budget movies now. It's kind of like For the Day or whatever. But he's always Lloyd Kaufman. Right. It's always going to be Lloyd Kaufman. And I take it back. I guess Carradine does return to show the photos and everything to him. But yeah, Carradine at least is still acting and still giving at least his minimal best. And he's still trying to play a character here. He's, especially in the 60s, he hasn't gotten to the point to where, he might not be able to remember all the lines or whatever. He's still performing. Right.
Like the stuff from Mexico in the late 70s.
Right.
He's very enjoyable in this. And yeah, he shows up again for the pictures, but I always just kind of showing the pictures to the policeman, but they're just kind of, those scenes just kind of fold to me. Like there's, and then he's gone. And then the next night starts and the mummy and the jackal man get back up to their old business and chase each other into the ocean for some reason, which also ends up killing Akana.
Right. And then it kind of ends.
It just ends.
And
we get the awesome music again.
And if you don't think I'm playing that music in this episode, I'm sure I already have. Man, you're kidding. You don't know what podcast you're listening to. I'm playing that music.
If you can find a clean version, it should be the intro music. I feel like it fits if you can find a clean one.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. The other thing that just occurred to me, and I was going to bring this up earlier, that I had read, and I don't know how legitimate or truthful this is, but Isley has been interviewed about this movie and had commented on this film before. He said a couple of places that Oliver Drake was getting older and senile and had no idea what was happening with this movie.
So I'd heard that too, and in the interview with Stephen Thrower, he addresses that and he says Isley told that story, but Drake's daughter said No, he still wrote some books and stuff after making this movie. He wasn't senile. He was doing fine. He was just probably checked out, is what she said. You know, he wrote 2 books after that. He lived a long time. He just kind of didn't care as much as you might in finishing this. And this was the last movie he directed.
Yeah, he would do a couple of like TV things after this, and that was about it.
This is the last
towards
movie.
the end.
Yeah, and you know, that may have been the impression Isley got, but according to Drake's daughter, he was just not into it.
I think sometimes, and I've tried to explain this on the show in the past, that I feel like when it comes to these movies, if you love them, you're either a John Landis or a Bob Burns. And what I mean by that is that there's a sit-down interview with the two of them. Rest in peace, Bob Burns, by the way. There's an interview with the two of them where they're chatting, and I believe it's on the Island of Lost Souls Criterion release, Blu-ray release, where they're talking about Lugosi and his performance in one of the Frankenstein movies. And Landis isn't overly complimentary of Lugosi's performance in that film. And Bob Burns is like, but it's Lugosi. And by the fact that it's Lugosi, it's enough to give him joy, whereas Landis is a little bit more critical. And I don't think either approach is wrong or right, but I am more on the Bob Burns side of things, where it's Lugosi. I don't care. It's a mummy. I don't care. I still had a lot of fun with this. And I feel like go into this movie thinking more like a Bob Burns than a John Landis.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at.
And I feel really similarly. No, I'm here for Lugosi. You know, I'm here for John Carradine. I'm here for The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals. You know, I have joy in my heart. You know? That's the kind of person I am. And I know I'm getting fleeced to a degree. But when you're in on the joke, that's part of the fun.
Right. And I think it's easy to imagine that the people making this movie had no illusions about what they were doing. They knew, right? They had to have known that it was a paycheck and it was a movie that they would not be surprised would not be released until it hit television in the 80s. There's just something about it that has this sense of, well, we're here. Let's do what we're going to do. And it's our movie. And I get that. As somebody who thought he was going to be a filmmaker when he grew up, I see myself in a lot of these regional low-budget DIY type movies. I see myself in this movie. I see myself in Manos, The Hands of Fate. You know, I see myself as somebody who was running around with his friends and a camera and very little budget and trying to shoot something and hoping that the fact that somebody is in the background smiling at the camera when the mummy's supposed to be menacing the streets of Las Vegas doesn't detract too much. But hey, you know what? We do what we got to do. I see myself in that. And so these movies speak to me on that level. On top of that, it's just a fun little monster romp. I mean, how many times do we see a werejackal in a monster movie?
Yeah, very rarely. As a matter of fact, I can count it all on one hand.
Yeah.
But I really just, I enjoyed this so much. And, you know, if I had made this, I'd be proud to have made it, even if it's not. Because, you know what? I made a movie. And,
I don't think anybody sits down and says, you know what, today I'm going to make a bad movie.
No.
Today I'm going to make a piece of garbage piece of art. I don't think anybody sits down to do that. I do think that people sit down and say, I want to make a movie and I've got the finances to do this, so we're going to do the best that we can, but yeah. But I don't think anybody wakes up and says, today I'm just going to completely drop the ball and make garbage and waste everybody's time. And I didn't feel like my time was wasted with this at all.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed all hour and 21 minutes of this. And, you know, I'll watch it again soon.
I want the Blu-ray. I'm putting it on my wish list now.
It's a good Blu-ray. Like I said, it's got that interview with Stephen Thrower. It has an interview with C. Courtney Joyner about Oliver Drake. And it talks about The Investors, which is one of the only things I didn't get to finish watching before this.
See Courtney Joyner, he's one of us. He's a monster kid. He's a big old monster kid. He's one of us, man.
Yep. But it's got great special features. It also has a lost film by Vega International, which is more mature, just so people know it's on there. And of course, it has an audio commentary.
Okay.
It's got a good amount of special features, and the ones I've watched are illuminating. Like they really add something to just knowing how this movie came about, which they even tell you because of some of the marquees on the strip that the movie could only have been filmed. As a matter of fact, I think they said it wrapped filming on the day we're recording this, in 1969.
Okay.
But it was filming the outdoor scenes on the strip from like January 16th through 19th, because the marquees, these people only perform together on these certain dates.
Okay.
And that's just a wild little piece of like information that we know for some reason when The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals was filming. It's good. It's a good release, and the film is so much fun. I think this fits nicely. I think your listeners, if they're not familiar with me yet, can just look at the movies we've talked about together, and they'll know the kind of guy I am.
But The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals is definitely, I know it's early in the year still. We're still technically in January, got 11 months to go, but so far this is my favorite discovery of the year so far for me. This was a treat. Oh, so good.
When did I watch it last year? Because it shot, like, I keep two lists, and one of them is first time watches for the year, and one of them is new movies for the year. Mm-hmm. And this one was, when did I watch it last year? Yeah, I watched it in July this past year, and it was one of my top 10 first time watches for 2025, for older movies, not for new things.
Right on. I keep a list as well of all the movies that I've watched. I've been keeping that list for the past 5 or 6 years now, big Google document. And it's definitely going to end up also on my flick chart where I keep track of my favorites. I would be shocked if this does not make it into my top 20, at least, which says a lot about me.
Hey, only good things.
I want to know why it took so long to get to television or anywhere, really. It's got to be a mob thing. It's got to be.
I think the mob just shelved it. Yeah. They spent the money and they could write it off. But it's really, if you just want a good time, if you want something that will kind of baffle you, but enjoyably so, this is it. It's like watching a Santo movie with no subtitles. I can't say enough good things about this. It's just a delight. It takes itself just seriously enough while still knowing, we're making the movie we can afford to make, if not necessarily the movie we want to make.
I'm telling you, the music from The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals, it is something special. If anybody has any leads on this particular bit of music, a clean version of it like Robert was talking about, man, I am all in for that. I tell you, it would be amazing to have. Peter Thomas, the composer, actually passed away not too long ago, but he still, or somebody still, has a website for him over at peterthomas.tv. Go figure. This movie isn't mentioned over there, but he had done a lot, especially a lot overseas in Europe, and there's some really cool kind of Euro spy-ish funk jazz stuff that I've been listening to. He did do some music from the Perry Rodin thing, film project There's an album. There's the Perry Rodan album, which is German science fiction. Anyway, check out Peter Thomas's music. And if you do stumble across the music from The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals, man, I am so in. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up in the future here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. There's actually quite a bit of things that I want to do. Quite a few things that I want to do here on the show. One of them is learning how to talk good, but that's more of a personal development kind of thing. The things that I want to do here on the show, man, there's a lot. I'm not going to talk about it all right now because really I want to keep you guessing and kind of keep the surprises coming. But there are some things that we've done on the show in the past that I want to readdress, reevaluate, and potentially revisit. It actually came up in a conversation with Robert after we got done recording. You mentioned luchadors.
Yeah.
Should we do Lucha de Mayo this year?
I think so. I had an idea. Lucha de Mayo is a beautiful thing, and it started focusing on luchador movies. I think you can grow it to talk about Mexican horror movies in general, because there are so many great Mexican horror and monster movies.
And that. Yeah, there's a number that I've never talked about. I've never talked about the Brainiac. I've never talked about the Crying Woman. I've never talked about a number of these things. What's it, the puppet people or the doll people or something?
Yeah, the doll people. There's so many good ones. Just Mexico had its own kind of golden age of gothic horror movies in the 50s and 60s, beyond kind of the cheesy stuff that we so often like to talk about, like Ship of Monsters and a lot of the Santo movies. And in the 30s as well, Mexico had a wonderful little horror boom with movies like Dos Monjes and Fantasma del Monsterio. And yeah, I think bringing those in bring Lucha de Mayo to, just encompass Mexican specific. Lucha is very Mexican,
Mm-hmm. True.
I think that'd be great.
I don't want to get away from doing luchadors, period. Like, I feel like there still needs to be that representation. But yeah, I'm thinking about maybe stretching it out a little bit. And honestly, Robert's not the first person or the only person to recommend that we do more than just luchador movies during Lucha de Mayo, during the month of May here on the show. In fact, I think Kenny's even brought it up in the past too with me. But it's been suggested, and yeah, I think we're going to do that. Not that I want to get away from the luchador movies at all. I love me a good luchador movie. In fact, there's a free luchador wrestling event coming up later this month that I am super stoked about, that Beth and I might be able to get to, because I think I'm actually off that day. And well, if it's free, I mean, you can't beat that. Anyway, I love me my luchador movies. I really, really do. So I'm sure we're going to keep doing luchador movies, but I would like to do some more Mexican horror movies as well. Now, I did not include this in the recording that you heard, but Robert and I were talking, and he brought up representation. And that is something that I do struggle with a little bit, because I'm not Mexican. I don't know anything about the culture or anything outside of secondhand research and that sort of thing. So I'm excited that he wants to talk about some Mexican horror movies. And, if we can get some more voices that are more qualified to talk about these movies on that level with me, I would love that. Honestly, that's the only reason why I've never really done a Black History Month theme here on the show. As much as I love the blaxploitation horror films of the 70s, I know we've talked about a couple of them in the past, but I've never had those voices here on the show, and I would like to do that. So if you're a listener and you do belong to one of these groups, man, I would love to hear you on the show. I would love to chat it up with you. I don't think it matters what color you are or who you are. If you love these movies, that's great. But if the movies speak to you on a level beyond that, because they speak to you and who you are, I'd love to hear that here on the show as well and chat it up with you. So I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to us if you are interested in participating in that way. Now, there are a couple of other things that I do want to share real quick. First of all, last year I recorded a test episode with author and friend of the show, Monster Kid Radio Irregular, Brian Clark. We did this kind of test episode. I never released it, and not because of anything that he did, but I didn't like my production on it. but it was a proof of concept and told me that I could pull this off. We're going to do some trivia episodes this year. We probably will eventually release what I recorded with Brian, maybe as a Patreon exclusive or something like that. But I want to do some trivia episodes this year. I love listening to some of the niche trivia podcasts out there. There's a Generation X trivia show, Who Will Save Generation X, that I really enjoy, and I'm taking some inspiration from. I would like to do more trivia/game shows here on the show in the future, so that will be happening at some point. Still figuring out the format. Like I said, I recorded a whole thing with Brian. I think he did great. I just don't know if I'm happy with what I put together. So stay tuned. That might happen. Well, I mean, it will happen. Just stay tuned for that. And if you want to participate in something like that, please drop me a line. Again, the email address is monsterkidradio@gmail.com. The other thing that we're really pushing for, and I've kind of mentioned this in the past, we are finally going to make this an official thing. Bride of Monster Kid Radio will have a Cyber Street team. What does this mean? Well, I need some dedicated Monster Kids, some dedicated Monster Kid Radio irregulars, whether you've been a guest on the show or you're just a super fan, to reach out to me. And I'm going to set up a private Discord server that we can go and meet in and talk about what needs to be done to help spread the word, because I'm going to be honest with everybody here. As much as I love doing Bride of Monster Kid Radio, I know I'm not the only voice when it comes to classic monster movie stuff. And I know people's time is precious and, people have to make choices. And sometimes people don't even know what those choices are. It's a big potosphere out there these days. And the listenership here, while y'all are awesome, and trust me, I love each and every one of you, and I appreciate everything that you do for us, our numbers aren't as good as they used to be. And I'm okay talking about that. I'm okay being transparent about that. I don't want to do anything sneaky or underhanded or buy views or anything like that, but I would love to get some of you involved in helping to promote and spread the word of what we do here, because the more people that know about us, the more views we get, the more likes we get on Facebook, the more retweets and reshares and re-X's and everything else. It helps put us out there in a more of a public conscious kind of way. And it allows us more opportunities to make the show even better for you. So reach out to me if you are interested in joining the inner sanctum of Monster Kid Radio. That's what we're going to call it. If you want to become a Cyber Street team member, if you want to join the inner sanctum of Bride of Monster Kid Radio, reach out to me. I'm going to set up a private Discord server for us. That'll be our primary way of being in touch with one another. So if you are going to do this, make sure that you're able to get onto Discord on the regular and participate and do what needs to be done, whether it's spreading the word, whether it's going to message boards or message forums or Reddit or whatever, because really, I can't do it on my own. Beth can't do it on her own, but I know we can all do it together because y'all are so awesome. There are some conventions happening this year that we are super interested in. One that has been brought up to me a couple of times now is Mad Monster Party. I'm not sure if we're going to go this year. It has been brought up to us a couple of times, like I said, from some people on Facebook and just some of our friends and some local people that we know. It's happening July 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Renaissance Phoenix at Glendale Hotel. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. I don't know if they've really announced a lot of guests that are relevant to what we do here. There are some people from Friday the 13th and Leprechaun and a few other things, a couple of Saw folks, people that make the horror convention circuit. Oh, that's interesting. Mark Holton is going to be there. He was kind of the villain, the bad guy, or the bully, I guess, in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He was also in Teen Wolf. Okay, maybe that's our connection. He was in a werewolf movie, kind of, sort of. Like I said, I don't know if we're going to go. I got to check my work schedule. I haven't really looked that far ahead to see if it's even feasible, but it is happening, and it's one of those events that we did last year, so I wanted to mention it again this year. Also, Terror Traders got their Gathering of the Ghouls scheduled as well, and that's going to be happening later this year too, in August 23rd and 22nd. That's a weird way to say it. August 22nd and 23rd, and it's happening in the Mesa Convention Center here in Arizona, and I'm super excited about that because that's a better location than where they were last year. I don't think they've really announced a lot of guests for that But if I remember correctly, there weren't a lot of guests there last year either. I mean, there were a handful, sure. But again, I'm looking for things that we can hang the Monster Kid moniker on, or just give us a reason to justify us being there. If you know of any conventions happening anywhere that would like to have us as guests, would like to have us as panelists, we would love to talk with you, and we would love to make it happen because we miss it. We miss it a lot. I haven't been a panelist on a panel at a convention in a very long time, ever since we moved down here. I'd love to get more involved in those kinds of things. So if you are involved with a convention or have access to a convention or have an idea for a convention, reach out, let us know, and we'll consider reaching out to them and see if we can make something happen. Finally, the last thing that I want to say about panels, Game On Expo is happening in March at the Phoenix Convention Center. Now, Game On Expo is designed for enthusiasts of video games, tabletop gaming, anime, and they say nostalgia, but I don't quite get that vibe when I look at their website. I don't know what their nostalgia is of, but Game On Expo is happening, and they do have applications up right now to be a panelist. I would love to go. I just don't know what we'd talk about. I'm trying to come up with something that is Monster Kid related that Game On can hang on to and be like, hey, yeah, that's something that our guys and gals and everybody else are going to want to hear about. So if you have any suggestions for us, again, monsterkidradio@gmail.com. You can also call and leave us a voicemail, of course. We've got our voicemail line. You can call us at 360-524-2484. Now, like I said, Kenny was somebody who also recommended doing more Mexican horror movies, and he also is the mastermind behind the Famous Monsters of Filmland segment that we do here. Kenny's look at Famous Monsters of Filmland, while Famous Monsters of Filmland is looking forward to the 70s.
Hello there, Bride of Monster Kid Radio hits. This is Kenny with a look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. Today, Derek is going to take a look into the future of 2026 on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. For today's segment, I'm going to take our FM time machine 50 years into the past and see what was going to happen in 1976. FM 123 will be our vehicle, and I think you'll enjoy the brief name drops of forever classics and the extended look at some misunderstood films that came out that year. Here is Son of Jaws meets Daughter of Exorcist, a preview peek at the horror, supernatural, and sci-fi film fair for 76. Exorcism, cataclysm, creaturism. These are the big three subject matters that we can expect to see dominating the screen in the seasons ahead. When we speak of creatures, consider these. Dogpack from Warner Brothers. Ferocious gangs of fanged and slavering canines gang up on personhood and send men and women running for their lives. Swarm, killer bees by the billions. Alligator, crawling all the way up from down under Australia, will be this horror thriller about a gator greater than any ever previously beheld by the eyes of man. And if the alligator doesn't get you, watch out for piranha. The piranha is probably the world's most ferocious fish, with razor-sharp teeth that can tear at human flesh like an electric buzzsaw. And they get the opportunity when a mad fish scientist seeking revenge for the death of his twin brother conceives a horrifying plan. He will infest hundreds of swimming pools with the killer fish. And if deadly fish aren't your wish, are you ready for this? Killer worms. Our informant, John Landis of Schlock fame, assures us there is such a film seriously contemplated. At time of going to press, we have just learned of another title relating to an invasion of worms called Squirm, but have not been able to learn if this is a separate project or a newer title for the previously announced film. And if the squirmy wormy scene doesn't send you crawling to the box office, perhaps the title change from Tarantula to The Giant Spider Invasion will have you flitting to your local theater. This pick is not something just on a producer's drawing board. It already exists. tarantula is a huge, creepy, crawly thing that you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley, or even in a light one. Kong, Jaws. The former a remake, the latter a follow-up. There's currently, end of September, a three-way tussle as to who has the most muscle to do the new King Kong. Paramount Studios, Dino De Laurentiis, Universal Studios, or independent producer Steve Barquette. An FM informant has seen a copy of a shooting script at Universal, but at the moment there is no clue as to whether it is a new story or faithfully follows the old. There is, however, one horrifyingly negative aspect about it. I understand Universal would mainly use a man in a monkey suit, employing only the minimal amount of animation. In the editor's opinion, this would be a tragic mistake, and the boos and hisses from the audience could easily drown out the booms from Kong's chest and the hisses of the dinosaurs. Turning now from Kong to Jaws 2, having broken more records than you could shake a shark's tooth at with the incredibly successful first film, a follow-up is now in the works. It will picture, I'm told, an 80-foot-long prehistoric shark. And I suppose it was inevitable. There's to be one about a giant grizzly bear. Pause. At which point, I suppose we might as well reconcile ourselves to Caws, giant blackbirds. Maws, giant mouse. Gnaws, giant rats. Saws, giant buzzsaws. And haws, giant laughs, in the genre of Young Frankenstein. The return of Reagan. Linda Blair is coming back. 14 when she first startled the world in The Exorcist, Linda will undergo another encounter with Satan in The Exorcist Part 2, wherein she will be seen as a 17-year-old high school senior. As of mid-August, the original film had grossed over $100 million in its worldwide playdates. Shooting on the sequel is scheduled to start in January of 1976, and portions will be filmed in Africa and Italy. The Accused is an original screenplay about exorcism with James Caan and Gene Hackman being sought for the leads. Salem's Lot has been purchased for filming. It concerns an 11-year-old boy who never speaks, but locked behind his eyes are a terrible secret. Knowledge of macabre events he has seen but cannot tell. The other principal character is a man whose nights are a nightmare as he remembers a peaceful little town called Salem's Lot. Population 1,319, and now population 0. An unspeakable horror now inhabits Salem's Lot, and the man knows that it is his lot and that of the boy who does not speak to return to this evil-infested village and confront the diabolic something that has taken possession of it. Enter the devil. A cult of devil worshippers amid the barren mountains of Texas cast a deadly spell into the night as they call upon the high priest of evil. A rockhound falls afoul of the demonic cult, and when his body is found, it has been burned beyond recognition. A deer hunter unfortunately meets up with the cult, and his bloated corpse is discovered in a pit of rattlesnakes. A beautiful girl is burned alive in one of the coven's frightening rituals, and an investigating deputy sheriff also falls victim to the cult's fury in a fiery car crash as he attempts to escape the diabolists. Dr. Leslie Culver, a young lady studying about black powers, learns too much about the gruesome group. Will her life or her soul or both be forfeit? Gregory Peck should lend respectability to Birthmark, an exorcist-type picture which requires the talents of a 6-year-old boy for a major role. Sounds like a job for an FM reader. The Killing Gift, a Putnam novel by Barry Wood, to be filmed by the producer of The Exorcist. A frightening tale of a girl who ever since childhood has realized she possesses a superhuman strength and has been attempting to control it. As a youngster, she discovered she had this terrible power of psychokinesis, combined with super strength by which she could kill a person without touching them. As an adult, in an act of self-defense, she is forced into utilizing her uncanny ability against a burglar, and when the coroner's autopsy reveals that the spinal cord of the corpse was snapped and drained by no known means, the detective finds that tracking down and apprehending the killer in his strangest and most dangerous case. Captain Kirk of the Trek ship Enterprise goes where no man has dared to go before, to the Devil's Domain. William Shatner stars in impulse. And still they come. Watch out for The Black Doll, a fantasy by none other than Edward Gorey. Peter Cushing has remade the old Karloff film, The Ghoul. Announced for filming are The Devil's Door, Exorcism's Daughter, The Morax Chant, Dracula's Blood, Burnt Offerings, Alucard, Demon Dracula, The Voodooist, The Night of the Occultist, Tide, Revolt of the Fish, Monsters Among Us, Phantom of the Paradise, Part 2, The Rocky Horror Show, Dracula's Great Love, Noise, William Castle's next, Demon Seed, The West End Horror, Carrie, A Weird Young Woman, Shadow over Innsmouth, Lovecraft, The Food of the Gods, H.G. Wells, Vampires, Most Unnatural Ladies, The Death Machine, Journey into Fear, Vincent Price, The Man Who Fell to Earth, Frankenstein, 1984, Cybernia, Sign of the Vampires, Dolphin Island, Arthur C. Clarke, Shatter, Anton Diffring, Hero's Journey, The Computer Killers, Michael Goff, Bloodsport, Kiss the Dead Goodbye, The Barony, 21st Century Adventure, Star Wars, Death Corps, Peter Cushing and John Carradine, Heather, Confessions of a Witch, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, Raquel Welch, Catastrophes to Come, Rampant Casualties and Destruction. Patrick Mott of The Hollywood Reporter tells us will be featured in Space Probe 1, a $6 million Disney production. Over 200 people die in it, says its co-author Bob Barbash. His writing partner Richard Lando, adding it's a kind of Poseidon adventure in space. The destruction part of the drama takes place when the space travelers who inhabit a huge skylab like Rocket City find themselves endangered by a space warp which is pulling them into the unknown menace of a black hole. The star of Space Probe will be a charismatic robot, one that the authors hope will challenge Robbie and Gort in personality and popularity. The Crash of 79, from a novel by Paul Erdman, will picture from Paramount global holocaust on an atomic scale. Wheel World, Roger Corman tells FM, will be my biggest budgeted film to date, over $1 million, laid in the year 2025 AD. Scripter Robert Thom more or less takes up where Death Race 2000 left off and pictures a bloodthirsty society of half a century hence, where the prize for winning a transcontinental car race is the privilege by the victorious pair of racers of assassinating the current couple who runs the nation. Political races and car races would seem to make strange and dangerous bedfellows in the 21st century. Dalton Trumbull is writing the adaptation of Megapolis about the catastrophic situation when the gas, electrical, fire, food, and all systems necessary to the survival of a great modern city simultaneously cease functioning. The resulting disaster is sure to be something better appreciated from the safety of a theater seat than the immediate involvement of reality. A picture where special effects will reign supreme. Catastrophe 1999, Japan's great follow-up to Tidal Wave. Last but far from least, we take pleasure in informing you of a great array of A pictures planned for 1976. Earth Abides, actually a catastrophe novel too, the classic by George Stewart that won the International Fantasy Award in 1951. Dune, Frank Herbert's masterpiece of the planet Arrakis, third world of Canopus, where a drop of water is more precious than a dragon's tooth, and men kill for the drug of immortality. Caves of Steel, Asimov, the remake of The Island of Lost Souls from H.G. Wells' Island of Dr. Moreau. Damnation Alley, the remake of Richard Matheson's Incredible Shrinking Man. Close Encounter of the Third Kind, an original sci-fi thriller by Steven Jaws Spielberg. The Bela Lugosi biofilm with Robert De Niro as the man who was Dracula. The Micronauts, Gregory Peck and Lee Remick. Logan's Run, from all indications the really big one of 1976, MGM. Proteus Island, Stanley Weinbaum's amazing story of nature running wild. And in 1976, Hammer Films will bring to the screen in crimson color Vampirella, every red-blooded comic fan's dream vamp. Now a paperback series as well from Warner Books, the most desirable, deadly denizen ever spawned on the planet Draculon, the Scarlet Dream Supreme from the pages of her Crimson Chronicles, the thrill girl who put chill in the children of the night, the one, the only, the incomparable, the indomitable, the invincible and invulnerable, incredible and irresistible, Vampirella, the winner in the Hammer sweepstake of horror heroines. That is all for this week's look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. We will have more next time. For BMKR, this is Kenny saying adios.
Kenny, thank you for sending that in. That's the Monster Magazine Time Machine idea. I just love the idea of looking at the older magazines. And yeah, they're great references, right? They're great for interviews and columns and editorials and just looks at what's happening in monsterdom at the time. But I really kind of hang on to this Monster Magazine Time Machine idea. What I mean by that is you can see where they thought the industry or monster movies were headed or going. And I love that. I love that idea. And, you know, Kenny, I love what you do, man. The segments are always awesome. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Now, Kenny has also been vocal, at least to me, about moving into the 70s when it comes to discussing classic horror or monster kids stuff. Not just necessarily with the podcast, but just in general. And, you know, we are, it's 2026 now, so we're like 40 years away since stuff was happening in the 70s. I mean, I was born in 73 and I'm 52 years old. So I do want to kind of open things up a little bit. I never, ever want to get away from the roots of what we do here on the show. Ever. I still feel and still use 1968 as the cutoff of what I consider classic horror versus modern horror. And that's because of Night of the Living Dead changing the game. But there are a lot of movies that came out post Night of the Living Dead that still fit in that classic monster movie category-ish. You know, I mentioned the blaxploitation films earlier. Things like Blackula Scream, Abby, you know, Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, Blackenstein. Well, okay, Blackenstein. I don't know if it's technically blaxploitation. I mean, it kind of is. You know, I'm going to put it in there. And I love Blackenstein for all the wrong reasons. And of course, you know, we were talking about Dracula versus Frankenstein earlier in this episode as well. So there's a lot of movies in the 70s that still, quote unquote, count. I just did air quotes on an audio podcast. Trust me, they were glorious air quotes. So yeah, we are going to be looking at movies from the 70s. So more often than we had in the past, I think. Stay tuned. In fact, you know what? I'm not going to tell you here. But I will tell you that if you follow us over on Patreon at patreon.com/monsterkidradio, when I post the show notes to this episode here in a couple of days, I will post there what the next thing we're talking about on the show is. And it is something from the 70s. And I think you're going to like it. And Kenny's already produced a segment for it. So that's coming up next week. Again, follow us at patreon.com/monsterkidradio. And you can join there as a free member. Okay, you don't have to be a paid member to get the show notes with the announcement about what's coming up on the next episode of the podcast. And this is just as good a time as any to go ahead and start wrapping up the show by letting you know you can find links to our Patreon, all of our social media channels, and everything else we got going on over at monsterkidradio.net. You're going to find links to Robert. You're going to find links to Mark and see what they're up to when they're not hanging out with me over here at BMKR. That just sounds weird to say. You know what I mean. You'll also find our contact information. I know I went over it a little bit ago. I'm going to go over it again. Our voicemail line is 360-524-2484. And our email address is monsterkidradio@gmail.com. We also have the Amazon affiliate link. If you're going to shop at Amazon, please consider clicking on the Amazon affiliate link that we have there because it helps funnel just a little bit out of Bezos's pocket and into our coffers, and that helps keep the lights on around here at Bride of Monster Kid Radio, as does our executive producer, Podcastcadia. You can check out more about Podcastcadia over at podcastcadia.com. They really help us out too. Okay, that brings us to the very, very end of the show. Big thanks to Chris Franklin for letting us play his music here on the show. I appreciate you sharing it with us, man. I really do. And again, Mummy Dust was in the air. The timing was perfect. My name is Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week. Ciao.